It is Sunday, June 15th, and President Trump intervening and stopping the elimination of the supreme leader of Iran, saying, let this be a sign, make a deal before it's too late. Also, Trump's big, beautiful military parade is over, marking the 250th birthday for the U.S. Army, and it turned out to be spectacular. Even left-wing media admitting how thoroughly surprised they were. We're going to show you some of that. And one person deciding to hate on the U.S. Army. A former presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, taking TDS to a whole new level. And more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. Also, consider subscribing if you appreciate these regular updates. Moments ago, Fox News reporting a top U.S. official confirming that President Trump, in the last few days, stopping an ongoing operation by Israel to take out the supreme leader of Iran. They had him in their sights. Trump stopping the operation, saying, Iran, take this as a sign to make a deal before it's too late. Watch.
He can now answer a question that you put to Benjamin Netanyahu that he punted on. A U.S. official is telling us just in the last few minutes since your interview concluded that President Trump did, in fact, in the last couple of days, nix a plan that the Israelis were putting together to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran. So we can put a bow on that as President Trump prepares to come and join us here in Canada. And he is telegraphing the way that he will frame this fight between Israel and Iran once he meets with the other G7 leaders. Part of a long Truth Social, he says, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. I do a lot, never get credit for anything, but that's okay. The people understand, make the Middle East great again. The president told ABC News today that he's open to the idea of letting Vladimir Putin broker peace between Israel and Iran, and his approach to this new conflict so far is winning the president praise from one of his harshest critics.
I support the administration's actions in helping Israel defend itself.
There's a Reuters report just moving saying that President Trump in the last couple of days vetoed an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, according to two U.S. officials. Is that true?
Actually, there's so many false reports of conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that. But I can tell you, I think that we do what we need to do. We'll do what we need to do. And I think the United States knows what is good for the United States, and I'm just not going to get it.
Okay.
This is what you call maximum pressure, a maximum pressure campaign. And previous administrations have used that term before, but nothing like what we're seeing now. President Trump speaking with ABC News this morning, telling them the U.S. may assist Israel in Iran. This coming after an Axios report claiming Trump had rejected Netanyahu's request to join the war. What we're hearing is there is a ton of pressure on President Trump to intervene, to join with Israel, fly with Israel, bipartisan pressure. Calls across the aisle, both Republican and Democrat senators and congressmen calling the White House to commit to backing this move. Let me say that again, bipartisan calls from leadership on the Hill reassuring the president that they'll back this move. They'll have his back on this. This morning, Face the Nation, Lindsey Graham with Richard Blumenthal agreeing that the U.S. should assist Israel. This is the uniparty in action, folks. Watch.
If diplomacy is not successful and we left with the option of force, I would urge President Trump to go all in to make sure that when this operation is over, there's nothing left standing in Iran regarding their nuclear program. If that means providing bombs, provide bombs. If that means
busting bombs?
Whatever bombs. If it means flying with Israel, fly with Israel. The worst possible outcome for the world is to take the Iranian nuclear program on and leave it standing. That will be a disaster.
We're also hearing the tide is turning in the White House. Cabinet members originally committing to not get involved at all whatsoever with the actual strikes to now considering it. The problem is that Israel lacks the bunker buster bombs and large bomber aircraft that are needed to destroy Iran's Fordow uranium enrichment site, the center, the core of their nuclear program. The site, built into the side of a mountain, hundreds of feet underground. Israel's F-35s, they can't penetrate the concrete layer of the base, but the U.S. can. We have both the aircraft, the B-2s, and the massive bunker buster bombs, both within flying distance to Iran. Trump posting on Truth Social this morning, reiterating to the mullahs in Iran, those that are left, to make a deal while you still can, writing Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make, in that case, by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop. Likewise, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings taking place. I do a lot and never get credit for anything, but that's okay. The people understand. Make the Middle East great again. What is crystal clear at this point is to take Donald Trump at his word. So many people think a lot of what he says is just bluster, but everything the man says, he does. Late last night, sending this post on Truth Social saying the U.S. had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. Armed Forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this bloody conflict. Trump promising during the campaign to not put boots on the ground. Any military intervention, he said, would be precise, strike to achieve a goal, go in, complete the mission, and get out, which I believe is what we're going to see happen here. If Iran doesn't immediately capitulate and agree to zero enrichment, which is Trump's terms, zero enrichment, Israel will continue this operation once they've achieved complete air superiority, meaning once they can fly over Tehran and anywhere in the country freely. Once all air defenses have been destroyed, we're going to see Trump authorize strikes on the Fordow enrichment site, finishing the job. Now, part of the original concern was this sparking World War III. Last year, Russia, China, and Iran, they formed a military alliance, promising to come to each other's aid if one of them were attacked, their own version of NATO. Well, yesterday, Iran calling that in, sending an envoy to Moscow, formally requesting assistance from Russia. Unfortunately for them, Putin declining, offering only to broker peace talks, but not intervening militarily. That changes the calculation dramatically. And from Trump's point of view, which, look, is always what's best for America, not like previous presidents who put foreign countries over American interests. Trump looks at what is best for America. And at this point, what's best for the security interests of the United States is finishing the job. This has been decades in the making, and not to mention there's just so many other aspects at play here with concern to China and Russia. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should Trump get involved? Should he authorize strikes and finish off Iran's nuclear program, or should he stay out of it completely? Let me know what you think. In another story, Trump's big, beautiful military parade was held yesterday in D.C., turned out to be a giant success, celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th birthday, delivering a powerful tribute to the U.S. Army. I watched it. It really was spectacular, featuring 6,700 soldiers, military equipment, flyovers. The media reporting the cost was way up there, almost $500 million. But it turns out that was fake news. The parade had a final price tag of just $45 million, and every single moment, if you watched it, sending a message. This is what honoring our troops looks like. Look, I was pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. Trump delivering multiple salutes throughout the parade, including one to Fort Bragg's finest, the 82nd Airborne, also saluting to the U.S. Army Rangers. Fox News' Brett Baer reporting this turned out to be one big, giant recruiting video for the U.S. military, that they couldn't spend this kind of money and get anywhere near this kind of attention. Watch what he said.
Was designed essentially as one big recruiting video and package, and they couldn't spend this kind of money to get this kind of attention. Remember, they spend about $2 billion a year trying to get this. Whatever this price tag is going to be, it's, to your point, Lawrence, going to be worth it. 250 years, the U.S. Army has fought, bled, and died for America, and this is what this day was about. Everybody talks about, and the critics said this was about President Trump's birthday, only mentioned a few times. I think some of the soldiers sang happy birthday, but this was about the U.S. Army's birthday. And you come away from this night, I think, with a look at the history of the U.S. Army, a patriotic look at the country. I will say, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, as I watched those fireworks, this is a dangerous time around the world.
Even left-wing media, who was fear-mongering for weeks about how this parade was going to be dark and trying to compare it to North Korea or China's military parades, until they saw it in person, even they were surprised. MSNBC, surprised, they said, at how positive the energy was. Watch.
I will say, I want to go back to you, Ali, that again, when we talk about this sort of tension in the country, and sometimes, you and I have both been at Trump rallies, those can be very tense, a kind of, I would say, like kind of a dark, malevolent energy sometimes in them. Not always, but it doesn't seem like that's the energy on the mall today, which I think is a good sign, right?
Correct. That you're really correct about that, Chris, and it's something we were watching for.
I really can't imagine anyone watching it. If you watched it yesterday, especially an American, if you're an American and you watch that, you felt a sense of pride, patriotism. So when I saw this morning, Hillary Clinton on X, the woman who, by the way, was only a couple thousand votes away short of becoming our president, took to X to compare and contrast why the No Kings protests were such a better sight than the parade. You gotta be kidding. Writing, compare and contrast scenes from yesterday in America. On the one hand, Trump's low-energy Dear Leader parade that cost you $45 million. On the other, millions of people across the country gathering peacefully to say, here we have no kings. Yeah, the peaceful No Kings protest. Peaceful, I'm sorry, but don't you mean the No Kings protest that resulted in multiple fatalities yesterday? Not to mention a deranged Tim Walz appointee assassinating Dem lawmakers. That peaceful protest? Thank the Lord this woman never became president. Let me know in the comments, did you watch the military parade yesterday? What did you think about it? I surprisingly thought originally it wasn't necessary, mostly because of all the hate Trump was getting about it, plus the cost of it. But yeah, I'm not above admitting when I'm wrong. Anyone who watched it, regardless of political party, that was a uniting event. Let me know what you think. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.